When engaging in the Catholic versus Protestant or non-Catholic debate, it is important to understand the difference in the presuppositions that both sides have. A presupposition is something that you assume to be true, especially something which you must assume is true in order to continue with what you are saying or thinking. Your presuppositions help shape what your worldview is. This is the starting point of all reasoning. Thus, if you have a difference in your presuppositions, you are arguing from two different worldviews. One common misconception when entering into a debate is not understanding the opposing side's presuppositions and worldview. This is going to drive the definition of terms, and when your definition of terms are different and your assumptions are different, then you wind up talking past each other, not really connecting and making a point. So in short, the non-Catholic or Protestant worldview's presupposition is that God exists and the Bible is true. This claim is supported in 2 Timothy 3:16. All scripture is inspired by God and beneficial for teaching, for rebuke, for correction, for training in righteousness. Other translations call it scripture that is God-breathed. Catholics will call this view sola scriptura, or only scripture, which is a highly debated topic. The presuppositions of Catholicism is a little different with some nuance. They believe primarily in the authority of the institution of church, more specifically the Roman Catholic Church. While they claim the authority of Scripture, the interpretation of Scripture must come from the institution, or what's called the magisterium. The magisterium consists of the Pope and bishops. This can be identified as sola ecclesia, or only church. While in today's age, Catholics do not claim that the Pope is infallible, but is the head of the church who may at times declare infallible statements. At the end of the day, the laity, or the common people, are to be ruled over by the clergy, or the institution of the church, which at the end of the day bubbles up to the magisterium. They claim that in addition to Scripture, church tradition also dictates truth. Thus, when a Catholic and non-Catholic or Protestant Christian engages in a debate, they are coming from two different perspectives. When one brings up a passage of Scripture, the other will consider the interpretation of that Scripture through the lens of the magisterium instead of the words of the Scripture themselves. Thus, the two sides are appealing to two different sources of authority. The Catholics will claim that they recognize the Scripture, but also include tradition from the institutional magisterium, the Scriptures having authority. Thus, the authority of the Catholic Church supersedes the authority of Scripture by itself.